Hey everyone, welcome back to Bleach Brave Souls, and today I'll be going through the process I use when setting up to auto 5-star legendary raids. Now, this is by no means a comprehensive guide on how to auto raids, rather it's the personal method that I use. And this video is intended for people who are more experienced with Bleach Brave Souls, but even if you're kind of new to the game, you still might be able to glean some information from it, because the techniques and methods I describe here can be applied at any level of play. So with that out of the way, let's get started, guys. So step one is to take a look at the raid you want to auto. This is very important, guys. It's at this step you'll decide whether you can auto it or you're not at that point yet. So let's take a look at a few examples here. If we bring up the list of raids, we'll see that we have several different choices here. And, the things to consider is what you're trying to get out of the raid first. Do you want the raid characters? Do you want the droplets? Do you want accessories? Because depending on that, you might want to select a different raid. If you're only looking for accessories, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. Just pick the one that you have the strongest characters for. So, I guess for this example, let's take a look at the Noitoura raid. Now, the Noitoura, the first thing you want to notice when choosing a raid, take note of the attribute. And I know this might be obvious to most of you guys, but for the benefit of the newer viewers or newer players, I'm going to go into detail. So the Noitoura raid is a heart purple raid. You also want to take a look at if there's any special conditions in this raid. So here it says we have boss actions. Boss has high-powered strong attacks. And usually that means the boss has the potential to one-shot a character. That's something very important to keep in mind. Also, that there are many ranged guard enemies. So that right there tells you you're going to want to pick a character that's melee, if you can. Other than that, that's probably the most significant things you need to pull from the quest details page. Then we can go into it. We'll pick legendary and click on the very hard button here. And here you can see the list of enemies that you'll be facing. And as you can see by the image there, we have a bunch of Arankar enemies. So that's something also you need to keep in mind. And if we look at the icons, and you guys might not know the characteristics of all these enemies, but there are really no status effects to be worried about here. There's no poison shooting enemies or burn enemies or freezing enemies, because that does play a large part into whether or not you're going to be able to succeed at autoing a raid. The more status effect, burn, poison, whatever you want to consider, the more those types of enemies that there are in the stage, the more complicated it will be to auto. So it doesn't look like we have any of that here. All right, so once you've taken all of those different factors into account, the next step 2, is to take a look at your characters. So go into your character inventory, and I mean, for different raids, it's going to be a different set of criteria you're looking for. For red, green, and blue, you're going to want to pick the respective attribute that counters that color. But for orange and purple, it's a little bit different. You could go with really any attribute, depending on the character, depending on your accessories. So for me, I guess the best thing to do would be to filter by attribute. So here I'm gonna look for orange characters. I could look for other attributes, purple, red, blue, green, whatever. But I think I'm pretty well stocked in orange characters. So press confirm, and there you see my list. So right off the bat, I do have Grimjo, who's a very powerful newer character, and he does do quite well in raids. So he's probably a selection I would make. And you also want to choose 1 or 2 backup characters, depending on the strength of your account. So I'm going to pick that Fullbring Byakuya, because he's my second strongest orange character. None of these others are really going to be viable. There's just right off the bat, guys. If you don't have a top tier orange unit or a top tier Fullbring, Ichigo or a Noitora for these raids, you're probably not. You could probably stop at this point. You need the characters that are going to be powerful enough to complete the raid. So if you're trying to auto raid with Hueco Mayuri, it's not going to be something that you can pull off. I'm 99% sure that he cannot do it flat out. So you can probably stop your search right there if you don't have the proper characters. So if you do have the proper characters, we can go on to the next stage, which is equipping them properly. So we'll go to the edit menu right now, and I will set up these characters. So I have an empty team here, and I said I was going to do Grimjo, Fullbring, Byakuya, and I think because I know my characters and I know my accessories and I know my soul links, I think these two will be enough to complete the raid successfully. So for the third one, I can pick anyone I want, really. Let's level up the Yamamoto I've been working on. Got to get those orbs, guys. Order here is also very important, guys. You're going to want to order them properly. So I'm going to want to put Byakuya in the first slot. So he'll start the stage off. And if he dies, Grimjo will take over. Now, the reason I do this is because of the way I'm going to set up these characters. So step 3 is obviously setting up the characters properly. And there's a lot of different schools of thought on how to set up characters for auto raids. And really, it depends on the raids. Like I said, in step 1, you take a look at the raid itself, take a look at what you'll be facing, take a look at the variables. And that will determine how you want to build your characters. So for this particular raid, Byakuya is also an Aaron card killer, which gives him an additional damage bonus in addition to the attribute bonus. So you want to take into account killer effects as well. Ideally, you want the attribute advantage and the killer advantage, but it's not always necessary. So let's take a look at my setup here. I do have a fairly decent amount of good orange accessories, and I'll be frank, guys. If you don't have high caliber 5-star accessories or stuff like that, you have a lesser probability of success. It's just a flat out, this is the way it is. So moving on, I like to set up my first character to be a tank. He is there to survive and get through as much of the stage as possible. So for this particular character, I have him set up for full stamina. As you can see, I have plus 1878 stamina. I'm not so concerned about attack because what good is attack if you can't survive the stage? There is some people who would say like the quicker you kill things, the less they can hurt you, and that's also a viable method to go. But I prefer to go focus my character on defense, my first character at least. So, like I said, I have plenty of 40% stamina items. For this particular attribute, for any neutral attribute stage, you're going to want to run a headband with stamina, ideally, because orange characters and purple characters do take more damage against their opposite attribute. So, as you can see, I also have 30 SP or 20 attack headbands as options, but since I'm running a Chappie and going for pure survivability, we're going to go with all stamina. The character links, I can go with a little bit more damage here since I have so much stamina. Some people would focus on damage reduction, but I think with this amount of stamina, I can afford to throw on some normal attack damage links. And Byakuya does have a very useful move for autoing this raid. He has a moving vortex, which mitigates quite a bit of incoming damage. Also, you're going to want to have a stamina recovery link for almost any character in almost any auto build. This is a must. You are going to take damage, and you are going to need to be able to recover it. Otherwise, you'll just get whittled away. By the third room, you'll be down to nothing. So, a lot of people also choose to put on a Hojikuzai for their accessories, but unfortunately, I don't have an appropriate one. I have one with 30% spiritual pressure, and if I'm running a Chappie, that doesn't really make any sense. You can't waste any space on your accessories or on your links. They all have to be useful. So a Hojikuzi with spiritual pressure, I'm really pretty much throwing away the primary effect of that accessory. All right, so That character will be built for tanking and just surviving as long as possible. And my backup character, which is Grimjo, will be built exactly the opposite. Grimjo will be built to kill as quickly as possible. Um, I predict that he will be the one to fight the boss. And when you're fighting the boss, especially a boss that has the one-shot mechanic, as I pointed out when we looked at the characteristics of the stage, you're going to want to be able to take that boss down as quickly as you possibly can, because he can potentially get one shot. And if you get one shot, it's a wrap. So to that end, I have a 30 defense, 40 stam, incomplete Hogyoku. For more attack, I did put on the 30 SP headband, and I did put on a 40 stam tension tie. The 40 stam tension tie isn't ideal, but this is a real life scenario. You're not always going to have the ideal accessory, so sometimes you do have to make do with what you have. And this is my backup character, so his equipment isn't quite as crucial as my primary character. For the links, I have a 25 strong attack damage, 20 strong attack damage, and 20 strong attack damage. As I said before, I am going for pure killing power with this character. And if you notice, he is not level 200, so that is a consideration to take into account as well, guys. Ideally, you would like to have level 200s when you auto certain raids. There are definitely raids that are easier and can be done with level 150 characters, such as the Ichigo raid with if you're using a Kenpachi, and some other raids as well. But for these raids, for orange raids and purple raids, you really do need every advantage you can get. So that is the setup, guys. Bring a backup character. Most of the work is done before you even press go on the quest. So the next and final step, guys, is to just do trial and error. Trial and error. The more you repeat the stage, the more you'll see what you need to tweak. Maybe you need to add a little bit more stamina. Maybe you need to add damage reduction. Maybe you need to add extra healing. Maybe you need to add extra attack. And that knowledge comes with actually attempting to auto the raid. So, in my process as well, I didn't immediately equip my characters and succeed. I had to tweak a few things here and there. So, there's no one method to auto all raids, guys. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. And I won't be able to tell you how to do it because I don't know what accessories you have, what characters you have, and things like that. Every account is different, so every account will probably employ a slightly different method than any other account. All right, so let's go ahead and try to auto the Noitara raid. Here we go. Let's get in here and get it started. Noitara, legendary raid, very hard. Prepare for quest. If you're finding you're having a little bit of difficulty surviving, or if you just want to be safe, use the boosters. Don't hesitate to do that. It's only 1,200 total gold, not really that much at all. And the final part that I haven't mentioned yet is selecting the appropriate ally. You're gonna want to go for high damage on any boss that has a one-shot kill mechanic. Other bosses you can go for a tank if you want, but ideally for this type of raid, when I looked at the information on the raid, I saw that there was a one-shot kill mechanic, so I'm going to try to get somebody that can kill. This Noitara is kind of tanky, but then again, he's Noitara, so automatically he's very powerful for a normal attack, no matter how you set him up, and he should suffice, guys. So let's go ahead. All right, let's get it popping. Now, if you just remember that this Byakuya is set up for normal attack damage. He is wearing a chappy, and look at the stam I have on him, 2990. That's like might be a little bit of overkill, but then again, I'm not using a Hojikuzi because, like I said, I don't have an appropriate Hojikuzi. So I have to compensate with extra stamina, and that's something you guys can do as well. If you don't have one thing, you can make up with it for something else. This character is particularly effective because of that moving vortex. It really does help out a little bit with crowd control and mitigating damage, because when they're in the vortex, they can't attack. And it will also interrupt enemies that are charging up to hit you. Now, the importance of backup characters, this comes with doing the trial and error. you're gonna see if you need backup characters. You do it a couple of times, you'll see like what your what level you're at. If I was having more trouble than I have now, I would even bring a third orange character or a third, maybe a Fullbring Ichigo, or if I had him, I'd bring a Noitora, just some really powerful character. For orange stages and purple stages, the attribute isn't quite as important because you're doing stock. You're going to always be doing stock damage or better. If you were to do a red, green, or blue raid, you would definitely want to bring the opposite 3 characters of the opposite element. And I won't go over that because I'm assuming that most of my audience knows the corresponding elements that counter each other. So it looks like we're doing pretty well so far. The high stamina is definitely keeping me alive. And as you watch during your trial and error phase, guys, you'll see where the problem parts of the stage are. There will be certain parts of each stage where, you might almost die every time, or where, the AI doesn't really act accordingly. So, that could give you a hint on how to build your character. For me, this is always the room where, if I'm going to die, it will be here. But then again, most of the time you don't expect a 100% success rate with Oddwing raids. There will be randomly times when you actually do fail the raid. And as long as it's an acceptable ratio of attempts of success to failure, I feel that that's fine. And that's for you to determine. Like for me, I demand a really high success ratio. If I'm failing 1 out of 10, that's really not good enough. I prefer something like, to fail less than 1 out of 20. But then again, I have very powerful accessories, and I have decently powerful characters. I don't have the top tier orange characters. Grimjo is definitely a top tier, but Byakuya, you could argue that he's not a top tier orange unit, and there are definitely stronger orange units out there. I should mention that the range and melee thing is also very important, guys. Keep that in mind. You can see what enemies you'll be facing in the opening information of the raid itself. So we've made it to the final room with 300 hit points. The Hojikuzi will give me some health back. There's also not the Hojikuzi, excuse me. The stamina recovery link will give me some health back, and there's also a health orb there. Looks like we're doing pretty well. The vortex is keeping them locked down. Here's the one-shot kill mechanic. I might die to this. Okay, so I got lucky there. But even if I did die to that one-shot kill mechanic, I have my heavy hitter, Grimjo, to back up Byakuya. So it really probably would not have been an issue. So, I mean, he didn't solo it completely, but, that's why you bring backup characters, guys. And pretty much this is the scenario I will end with on this particular raid. Probably, 19 times out of 20, like I said. I have a very high success rate with this raid because I've trialed and errored it many times. All right, and I do have powerful accessories. There's no getting around the need for powerful accessories. But everything I explained in this video can be applied to the lower tier raids as well. If you can't do the legendary, start off with a 4-star raid, or start off with the lower 5-star raid, and just go from there, guys. You'll get there eventually if you keep playing. Just keep at it, and over time you will amass the accessories you need to do stuff like this. And if you can't do one raid, try another one. Try a different raid with different enemies, different variables. Try a different color if you're just looking for accessories or droplets, and go from there, guys. K-Lab's given us a lot of options for raids. They've given us 3 levels of difficulty for the 5-star raids. And everything I've said can be applied to any of these levels of difficulty. We have 2 levels of difficulty for 4-star raids. And, just see where you're at. Test things out. Try to follow the things I've talked about. Character selection, gathering the information on the raid itself, accessory selection, link selection, things like that. All right? So I hope you were able to benefit from this video. Let me know what you guys do with your characters when you try to auto. And thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.